Coming in at number 10 we have John Doe 24. I only recently discovered that John Doe is America's way of saying like a generic man. In the UK we have a saying that goes a bit like every Tom, Dick or Harry, although they aren't popular names anymore. So anyway, John Doe number 24, let me tell you about him. This was the name given to a mysterious teenager who was found walking the streets of Jacksonville in Illinois in October 1945. The teen was deaf and was unable to speak or even use sign language. The only thing he seemed to actually be able to do was write his name. Lewis. Sadly, a judge sent him to a mental health institute where he was given the name John Doe 24 as he was the 24th person to enter the system, nameless. Despite institutions being brutal in their day, he made quite the impression. He was said to have been a cheerful man and loved dancing and laughing. Don't we all? He died in 1993 after decades as a nameless man in the system. On his death, no one was any closer to discovering who he was. Coming in at number 9, we have Laurie Erica Ruff, or Laurie Kennedy, or Becky Sue, or I guess who knows, right? Laurie! Can we make that rhyme with mystery? I don't know. I feel like we can give it a good go. Laurie. Mystery. Anyway, I digress. Laurie was kind of an oddball. She was married to a guy called Blake and they had a child, but she wouldn't let any of his family hold her. She was so strange. She'd do weird things like ask for an easy bake oven for Christmas even though she was 40, although I have to say that isn't the worst thing in the world, like let the woman bake. It's also reported that she loved a nap, which I'm also actually okay with. Throughout her marriage to Blake, she kept a lockbox which she instructed him never to open. Laurie had started becoming very strange when Blake asked for a divorce. Sadly, after a few very intense months, she was on a big downward spiral and ended up ending her own life. After her death, the lockbox was finally opened and it revealed some drama. It seems that Laurie Erica Ruff used to be Laurie Kennedy, who used to be Becky Sue Turner, but the only Becky Sue Turner her age had died age 2 in a fire in Fife, Washington. Laurie got a new social security number, and also in the box were mysterious scribblings saying very strange things like 402 months and North Hollywood Police. What does it all mean? No one has ever yet cleared up the mystery of who she was, and they may never. Coming in at number 8, we have the Count of Saint Germain. Was this man a saint? Was he a count? Was he immortal? It seems that he simply appeared in French court one day and the rest, as they say, is history. The Prince of Denmark thought that he was one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived, so here's a picture of him so you can get a visual. The chap in question was born either in 1691 or 1712, the exact date is unclear. He did however die in 1784, but at times he would make claims like he was 500 years old, or he even claimed to be immortal sometimes. He said he was the Prince of Transylvania. Famous French writer Voltaire sarcastically dubbed him the Wonder Man, but honestly, I'm uncertain he deserved that level of sass. He was pretty wonderful. Despite being unaccounted for, the Count of Saint Germain was well educated and wealthy, and that money had to come from somewhere. He wrote music, spouted philosophy, spoke several languages, he was a hit with the ladies. He eventually became an advisor to the king. He died without ever marrying. He had no children and no surviving heirs. Not that he had any fortune, if he ever had one. Nothing was discovered, just, him. Dead. Coming in at number 7, one of my favourite historical figures, we have Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was a Croatian, Serbian, American creator known for his work with electricity. He also had a cracking moustache. As talented as he was quite mysterious, and it seems that there probably was someone out there to get him. Perhaps it was all of the unpaid hotel bills he left behind him. He was an eccentric. Nikola developed a technology that was able to give people free energy, allegedly. He built the Wardenclyffe Tower, or Tesla Tower, in 1901, and he was planning on using it to transmit images across the Atlantic from New York to England using Earth to conduct signals. Now the long and short of it was that he wanted to give people free electricity, but his funding was mysteriously stopped and his plans were mysteriously destroyed. It was rumoured that he was up for a Nobel Prize in his time, but that too was mysteriously hindered. Odd. Very odd. He indeed was an odd man anyway. He claimed to only ever sleep 2 hours a night, and what he did with the rest of the time? Well, it is said that he used to feed pigeons at midnight in New York. One night, he was off to feed the pigeons and he was run over on his way to do so. After his death, his entire estate was quickly shipped to Belgrade on the insistence of his nephew. Fun fact about Nikola Tesla, he curled his toes 100 times each per foot per night, claiming that it I quote, stimulated his brain cells. I'm gonna try that. How does one curl a toe though? Ugh, toes. Coming in at number 6, we have the Watcher. This is an active mystery that continues today. Who is the Watcher of New Jersey? Many people presume it's a man, but special studies of their handwriting have suggested it could be a woman. But I'm getting ahead of myself, let me tell you the story. Around 5 years ago in 2014, a couple in New Jersey purchased their dream home at 657 Boulevard for $1.4 million US. Before they even had the chance to celebrate and crack the champagne, they started receiving weird letters signed from the Watcher. I'm sorry, who? Good question, but one that still doesn't have an answer. The first letter they received read, "Dearest neighbor, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I've been in charge of watching and waiting for a second coming." The first letter stated that the writer had asked the previous owners to move out to fill the home with, I quote, young blood. Creepy. Delving deep into the past, it does seem like the house was once sold for $1 in the 1950s, which is pretty curious. The couple the current owners bought the property off, the Wood family, wanted a quick sale. In the Watcher's first note to the new family, they made reference to the couple's children. They said, "Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them out." Then, in later letters, the Watcher asked who was occupying what bedroom. They claimed that they liked to be able to track the family as they moved through the house. It seems that the Watcher was actually one in a long line of mysterious watchers. In their first letter, they wrote, "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It's now my time. I've been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming." I mean, what? The buyers freaked out, which I totally understand, and they even started a lawsuit to sue the Wood family who sold it to them. They accused them of hiding information about the voyeur. The most recent update of this story is actually the couple who received the letters and made the whole story public have finally sold the house, but at a loss. The police still have no idea who the Watcher could be. Coming into number 5, we have Christopher Marlowe. I love a bit of Christopher Marlowe action, I really do. Dear Kit is supposedly a historical figure from Shakespearean times. He was thought to be a great friend of William Shakespeare, although some say Shakespeare stole his work, and others say that Marlowe could have been the bard himself, masquerading under a different name. Christopher Marlowe was said to be outrageously attractive and a very hard partier. Hats off to him. He unfortunately was murdered aged 29, a sadness which is resounded across Shakespeare's work. In his short years, Christopher Marlowe made quite the impression. He disappeared from Cambridge University for nearly a year, and he returned 32 weeks later to demand his Master of the Arts degree, which he was given. He was once arrested in the Netherlands for counterfeiting coins, but he was bailed out, and he may or may not have been involved in murdering an innkeeper's son. Despite being the son of a shoemaker, he became a favourite in Queen Elizabeth's court, which is why he got away with so much. Some say he was indeed a spy for the Queen. He was killed in a brawl, or so the story goes. Many people think that it was a planned attack. Christopher Marlowe was reportedly buried in an unmarked grave. Curious. Coming into number 4, we've got Casanova. Casanova, bro, what's your secret? Well, that, my friends, is a mystery. You may have heard of the term Casanova, which generally means a man popular with the ladies. However, Casanova was indeed a real person. Born in 1725 and died in 1798, Casanova was an Italian adventurer who was the OG playboy of the Western world, although there are rumours that he was a Venetian spy, which actually is a rumour he perpetuated himself. Casanova was reported to have seduced over 130 prominent women, a handful of men. He invented the lottery in France and helped Mozart write the libretto to Don Giovanni. How Casanova managed to woo so many people and be so famous, how he managed to invent so many successful get-rich schemes, how he lived such a high-drama life. I mean, the guy escaped from prison at one point. Honestly, it's a pure mystery. Casanova was morally dubious, although this was the 1700s. He wrote a book called Histoire de ma vie, Story of My Life, and it is well regarded as one of the best autobiographies of all time. His book, amongst others, has honestly inspired me to write my own. Casanova. What a lad. Coming in at number 3, we have Marika Rökk. How Marika Rökk made a comeback after being associated with Adolf Hitler? Well, that's certainly a mystery. Marika was born in Egypt, but was of Hungarian nationality. However, she made her name as a dancer, singer, and film actress in Nazi Germany. It's rumoured that she was a lover of both Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler, although the latter is less likely. Nonetheless, she was a powerful woman in the Third Reich, and after the war, she was banned from the stage for 2 years. She was labelled a disgrace. Somehow, she managed to claw her way back into favour though, and quickly became one of Europe's most famous actresses. In 1948, she received the prestigious German Bambi Media Award. All seemed to be forgiven. It was later revealed that actually, she was a very successful spy for the Russians, or Soviets as they had been. It's also suggested that she may have been involved in killing a few people. I honestly feel like there needs to be a movie about this woman. I can't speak Hungarian or German, but aside from that, I would love to play her. So casting directors, I'm your gal. Yeah. Coming in at number 2, we have the Pied Piper of Hamelin. No, it's not a fairy tale. It turns out that the Pied Piper of Hamelin was real, and yes, he did seem to spirit away a bunch of kids. The popular fairy tale says that the town of Hamelin was infested with rats when a colourful clothed man turned up and said that he would get rid of them for payment. Except, he was never paid, so in a fit of rage, he stole the town's children and led them through a mountain. Only, well, did this actually happen? Surviving town records from the Church of Hamelin in Germany say, and I quote, "In the year of 1284, on the day of St. John's and Paul on June 26th, by a piper clothed in many kinds of colours, 130 children born in Hamelin were seduced and lost at the place of execution near the Kopen." It's actually thought that the children were taken as part of a children's crusade, and the whole business with the rats was added later as some kind of explanation. Some even say that the real piper was a paedophile who abducted children in their sleep. Suffice to say, he and the children were never found. What a mystery. The ultimate mystery at number 1, we have Nostradamus. Michel de Nostradamus, shortened to Nostradamus for us, was a notable French astrologer, doctor, occultist, and seer. I love a good seer. He was born in France in 1503 and he died relatively short life in 1566. The man was expelled from university for his work as an apothecary, which is pretty witchy and I like it. Nostradamus is best known for his book Les Prophéties, which he predicted future events, many of which have actually come true. Some of the prophecies people identify as being true are the death of King Henry II of France, the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, the discovery of pasteurization, the rise of Hitler, the success of Charles de Gaulle, the atomic bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the assassination of JFK, and 9/11, just to name a few. Prophecies yet to come true are zombies rising from the grave, mega droughts in North America, a weakened West, catastrophic earthquakes, and World War III. Oh, and there's a chap called Mabus who signals the end of the world. Cool! Thanks, Nostradamus. Where is he getting his information? I need more information, but I won't get any, cause it's a good old-fashioned mystery. Alright, coming in at number 10 we have the Prince of Silence. Meet William John Cavendish Scott Bentnick. He lived between 1800 and 1879. Sorry, you want his proper title? That's William John Cavendish Scott Bentnick, the Marquis of Titchfield and the 5th Duke of Portland. However, he liked to be known as the Prince of Silence, but we're just gonna call him William. William was rumoured to be disfigured, although in reality he may have just hated being around people. The only person who was allowed to see him was his valet and chauffeur, and even then he shielded his face. If his staff ever saw him, they were instructed to ignore him. He did not want to talk. They were also bound to silence over his appearance. Oddly, he built a giant roller skating ring for his staff. He was also said to have built 15 miles of underground tunnels that allowed him to move around undetected. I honestly feel like rich people get to be eccentric, whereas poor people just didn't have enough time in the day to be quirky. They just had to get stuff done and survive. Coming in at number 9, we have the man who couldn't stop eating. Honestly, my first thought was like, I feel you, sir, but after reading about this French peasant boy known as Tarrare, I actually think that, really, I'm not that hungry. So it seems that Tarrare was rejected by his parents after they found out that he was eating them out of house and home. Literally. Then he was going out of the house and eating all of the animal feed too. He also smelled bad, like really bad. He travelled to Paris and drew a crowd by eating live animals and large stones, but when the revolution began, he became a soldier where he required quadruple rations and ate stray cats. Ugh. He became a spy as his general saw his unusual skill, and he was tasked by delivering military messages and secrets by smuggling them in his mouth. He was caught, he betrayed his general, he was savagely beaten, and he ended up in hospital. What did he do there? He started eating dead people and drinking blood. It is rumoured that he ate a baby, but he very strongly refutes it. It all got too much for him, and eventually he died of a ruptured intestine aged 27. When the autopsy happened, the surgeons had to stop midway because he smelled so bad. If you thought that was gross, our next mysterious human story is very strange and very gross indeed. We're talking about Gloria Ramirez, aka the Toxic Woman, at number 8. Gloria Ramirez's life isn't the mystery here, it's her death. Up until the age of 31, she seemed like a happy and healthy young woman. That was until the evening of February the 19th, 1994, when she was admitted to hospital in Riverside, California. She was experiencing a rapid heart rate, a drop in blood pressure, and could not form normal sentences. Doctors tried to save her, but she started emitting a garlic smell, and when her blood was taken, it had weird light brown particles in it and smelled like ammonia. At odds with these symptoms, it was discovered that she had cervical cancer, which is extremely bizarre. Nurses tried to work on her to save her, but one by one they started to faint. Others experienced inexplicable paralysis. When her autopsy was conducted, it had to be done by doctors in hazmat suits to protect themselves. What was going on? Honestly, we don't know. Coming into number 7, we have the people of Easter Island. What happened to the people of Easter Island? You know Easter Island, right? The big remote island in the middle of the Pacific, the one with all the big stone heads. See? This island used to be the home to an ancient civilization that died under very mysterious circumstances. On the island, artifacts, wooden tablets, and the like were discovered with strange undeciphered writing on it. Now the language has been given the, in my opinion, awesome name of Rongo. The writing is a series of glyphs, which is like a symbol kind of writing. There have been many attempts to crack the code, but so far they have been unsuccessful. It's thought that the language is a special and rare case of an independent invention of human writing, which is really cool. If the Rongo language is ever translated, it could reveal the scary secret of how the people of Easter Island died, but for now, it's a mystery. Coming into number 6, we have the Spaceman. Look at this photo. Do you recognize it? It is one of the most famous photos of the 20th century. This photo was taken on a family outing to a beautiful part of the northern English countryside. The photographer was Carlisle fireman Jim Templeton, who took a picture of his daughter. Only when he got it developed, there was an unlikely photobomber, a NASA spacesuit wearing cosmonaut. What a cosmonaut was doing in Solway in the British countryside, we don't know. The Templetons were baffled, and soon the media picked up on the mystery figure. The family claimed that there was absolutely nobody else around when the picture was taken. Also, it actually really does look like a spacesuit, doesn't it? Film company Kodak offered a reward to anyone who could prove that the photo was faked, but absolutely nobody could. So who's the mystery spaceman? Again, we don't know. Ooh, I like this one at number 5. We have Banksy. I am always here for a bit of Banksy, absolutely always. Banksy is a guerrilla artist who creates his work as graffiti in urban spaces. Banksy is known for his political messages. For example, he has depicted rioters throwing flowers rather than grenades, a naked man on the wall of a sexual health clinic, and you know, he's got his famous paintings, or graffiti paintings, the balloon girl and the bomb hugger. It's powerful stuff. It's presumed that Banksy is from Bristol in England, as that is where the art started, but his artworks have appeared across the world. There's even one in Toronto actually. Despite living in the age of CCTV, Banksy's identity has never been discovered. Also, we're so busy saying he and his regarding Banksy, but I guess he could very well be a woman. I kinda hope so. Have you guys noticed that when we create lists like this, there are more men than women? I think that's because while women's stories are told, and they definitely did have adventures and stories, history is saturated with stories from the perspective of the patriarchy. Prove me wrong. Speaking of unidentified people in famous photographs, we have the Man of Tiananmen Square at number 4. This is one of the most important images of all time. This image is of an unidentified Chinese man who stood in front of a number of big ass tanks as the Chinese government rolled out of Tiananmen Square, having suppressed protesters by force. The man holding shopping bags stood in front of the tanks, stopping them in their path in a simple and powerful act of resistance. The moment was captured by photographer Jim Widener and became a symbol of protest across the world. We don't know who the man who stopped the tanks was or what happened to him after this image was taken. It's likely that he was killed, in which case he will never have known what an impact his actions had. Coming into number 3, we have the Salem witches. Here be witches. The Salem witch trials were one of the weirdest moments in history. Occult hysteria swept over the town of Salem in Massachusetts as 19 people were convicted of witchcraft and killed in 1692, with hundreds of others accused or afflicted with hysteria. So, what was going on? Why were 14 women and 5 men considered to be witches? Why was colonial North America in general obsessed with witches back then? The short answer is probably religious fear and possibly poisoned bread, but the long answer involves many shades of we just don't know. Okay, this is one for my fellow Harry Potter lovers. You know that I'm the Slytherin queen. We have Nicolas Flamel at number 2. Hello there, Nick. Mate, Nicolas Flamel was real. Not totally in the way that J.K. Rowling claimed, no, but his character in The Philosopher's Stone was based on a real man. This real man just so happened to be considered to be immortal. Flamel was a French alchemist, which is basically like a potion master. He was the OG Snape. He wrote mysterious books filled with very strange symbols that people believed discussed a magic life-prolonging stone. Sound familiar? It seems that even though Flamel died in 1417, books that sounded very much as if they were written by him cropped up hundreds of years into the future. Finally, coming into number 1, we have Helen of Troy. This woman gets a bad rep, and that is arguably because her story is told by an assortment of jilted men and not from her own perspective. Helen of Troy was said to be the most beautiful woman in the world, and oddly, she's painted both as a hero on the one hand and as a whore on the other, which I mean. Helen of Troy was heir to the Greek kingdom of Sparta, and it was said that she was the spark that lit the Trojan War. So who was she? How did she make her way into so many history books and works of literature? What made her so beautiful? And did she really spark one of the most epic wars of all time? Some even claim that she was the daughter of the god Zeus, yet she seemed to be a real person. This is all very confusing, but as she died thousands upon thousands of years ago, we're likely to never be able to detangle fact from fiction and know more about who she really was.